Hi, this is Mike. It's been a while since I made a video. I'm hoping to change that and start making videos more regularly. Um, we'll see what happens. Um, this is a video I've wanted to make for a while. It's part of my testimony, how God has intervened in my life and He makes everything work for our good. Romans 8:38. God has spared my life 3 times now, over the last 3 years. And I know why. Sometimes, some days I feel like I don't understand why, but I know why. It's so that I could spread the gospel. That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to be grateful every day that He's given me. So I want to take you through my journey the last couple years. First, we have to go back to April of 2022. I had gotten a very bad cut on my big toe. At the time, I was diabetic, and my diabetes has since been resolved, and it's gone. Like, God got rid of it, and I'm not joking. God got rid of it. And I told Him if He helped me with these things that I would tell people, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to do here. And I'm doing this without notes or a script or anything, so please bear with me. So I had a cut. It is awful, and I didn't realize I was even hurt because I have neuropathy in my feet and lymphedema in my legs, so I have a very bad loss of sensation in my legs and feet. I didn't even know I was hurt till somebody pointed it out to me. So I bandaged myself up. I've been dealing with, sores and cuts and things on my legs for, almost 20 years now. I mean, it's like 15, 20 years. Sometimes they get really bad, and I'm used to dealing with them, so I thought I would be alright. After a couple days checking on it, I realized things were out of my control. My toe was dying. So I had to go to the ER. Ended up admitted to the hospital. They decided, instead of amputating my toe, that they were going to try to save it. So that's what they did. They had surgery. It went very well. They were able to save the toe. It grew back the way it was supposed to. Unfortunately, though, they found out that I had been infected with several bacteria, but one of the worst ones that you can get is MRSA. I had that, so I went on antibiotics for a while. Then after a couple months, they did blood tests, and everything seemed to be fine. My toe had healed. I looked like I was going to be all right. So we're going to fast forward now a little to November of 2022, right around Thanksgiving. I got very, very sick. Thought it was the flu. And everybody in the house kind of got sick at the same time, so we just all assumed it was the same thing. I also was having an issue with my shoulder. Turned out it was like a very, very bad arthritis. They ended up doing surgery on it to fix it. That's how bad it was. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Before that happened, I had gotten so bad I couldn't get out of the chair. Like, I was incapacitated, basically. Couldn't couldn't move, couldn't talk very well. I mean, like, they would speak to me, but I wouldn't make sense. Um, so one night I was hiccuping, or so they thought, but it wasn't a hiccup. It was actually the valve in my heart doing this, and it was causing me to like jerk like this and make a noise that sounded like hiccups. And they realized after a while, when it didn't stop, that something was really, really wrong. I couldn't move. I wasn't making sense. So they called an ambulance. Um, Apparently, while the ambulance people were loading me up, I was crying out the whole time to God for help. Like, apparently, even though I was kind of out of it, I still deep down knew something was wrong. And I was still in there. And it gives me a very big measure of joy to know that even in what was my darkest hour, because I was that close to death, um, that I was still able to call on God, and He was the first thing in my thoughts. It's a very big measure of comfort to know that. So I got admitted to the hospital. They got me stabilized, and then found out that what had happened was the MRSA had gotten to my heart, specifically to a heart valve. It was covered with vegetation, is how they put it. So they were trying to figure out how to fix that, replace the valve, one, without killing me, and two, without spreading the MRSA everywhere. So I spent 12 days incapacitated like that. Couldn't move, had no idea who I was, where I was. To me, it felt like I was in this great big long dream that I just couldn't wake up from, and it was the most bizarre things imaginable. It felt like I was in like a horror movie. Like it was really that bad, you know. Disturbing. Um, so eventually they did the surgery, replaced the valve. Apparently I was actually at one point they had tried to ask me, even though I wasn't really lucid, if I wanted to use a piece from a cow or a piece from a pig to make the artificial valve. And apparently I begged them not to use a pig. Don't remember any of this, you know. But they did the surgery, and they put a pacemaker on the outside of my body because of the MRSA. They didn't want to put it in there, have it get infected, and then have to replace it again with a new one. So I woke up from the surgeries. Funny story. Apparently, when I woke up from the surgery, they said, well, it was either right before I went into surgery or after I woke up from it. They said to me something like, Mr. McMillan, we're going to do a open heart surgery on you. And like, is that okay or whatever? Or we just did it. And apparently I just said, oh, okay, and bleh, went right back out. Just a funny little aside there. So when I woke up from the surgery, like, I couldn't move. I was bedridden for more than a month. Like, it was a very long time. I couldn't even roll over. I couldn't do anything. It took weeks and weeks to recover from that. No, like this was God had spared my life, and all I could do was lay in bed and wonder why. You know, why couldn't I just have died? It would have been so much easier. and to go through all this. So it was really hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. But I knew why. I knew why, and I kept denying it to myself. Like I knew God had spared me so that I could preach the gospel. It's what I was supposed to be doing the whole time, and I just kept putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. It was like God's way of waking me up. Um, so as I was recovering from the surgery, um, like I said, I couldn't walk. I basically had to learn how to walk again. The first couple of times they tried to get me up on my feet were disastrous. I couldn't do it. And I was very upset by it. Finally, by like the third time, this inspiration just came over me, and it's like I knew I was gonna walk. I was gonna take some steps, and I looked at a nurse and I said, "Do you want to see me walk?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah." And I did. I took like 3 little steps, like that. Those was the first steps that I took after surgery, and it was like three weeks later or more, something like that. It was a long time in between, but that totally was just God speaking to me. Like He's like, "You're gonna walk right now." It was a gift to me. Um, no, it's funny. Somebody told me that my surviving all this was their Christmas miracle. That made me really happy. Because I basically had to go through all this by myself. Like, I have family, but I'm not married. I don't have children, so my family, were around, but it was basically me having to go through all this, just me and God. That was it. Um, so I spent 8 weeks total in the hospital with this incident. I called it my big collapse because that's basically what happened. Because I had a couple mini collapses after that. Like I said, I had just 3 times God has saved me. So this was the first one. I spent 8 weeks in the hospital. The last 2 weeks were physical therapy. It was really rough. Yeah. Now we're gonna fast forward a little bit. We're gonna go to July of 2023. It's right around the first of the month. I was still recovering from the first surgery. I was having a really bad day. For some reason, my chest was really hurting that day. And, it hurt occasionally, but this was something was off. Something was wrong, and I knew something was wrong. And I did not want to go to the hospital. That was the last thing I wanted to do. But the pain got so bad, I just couldn't ignore it. All I wanted to do was go to sleep. I said, I'm just going to go to sleep. The pain will go away. I'll be fine. And I tried to lay and go to sleep, and couldn't do it. The pain was too bad. So I ended up at the ER. My niece had taken me in, and I was like slumped over in a wheelchair like this. Like I couldn't move. And she was getting really, really scared, like, because something was wrong. And so she went up and asked him, like, "Can you get him back here? Hurry up, please." Because there all these people in the ER with sniffles, like, and I'm sitting here in a wheelchair, and I was dying. I was actively dying, and nobody knew. I didn't know. Nobody knew. So they told her that apparently I was like next in line, or whatever. So I got back there. I guess because of my history, they knew that they couldn't hold me off all day. So got in the back, found out that I had fluid building up on my lungs, and one of them had semi collapsed, and I was going to drown to death in my own fluid if I had not come in to get help. If I'd have stayed home and went to sleep like I wanted to, I would have drowned to death sitting in a chair at home. I almost drowned to death sitting in the ER waiting to get seen. So that's strike number 2. They put chest tubes in, get all the fluid out. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital this time. That was rough. It was really bad. Okay, so now we're going to fast forward again. We're going to go to April of 2024. I had ordered some groceries and they brought them to the house, but they didn't put them on my front porch like I asked to. I had to go out and get them. And I fell in the driveway and broke my arm. While I was in the hospital for that, it was so excruciatingly painful. While they did the x-rays for that, they found out that the MRSA was back yet again. So went home with the broken arm. I actually had to have surgery on that arm to fix it. They stuck a bar in there. It was really bad. It was so painful. Went home, back on antibiotics again. They were sending people out to do blood tests on me, to make sure I was okay, that sort of thing. One of the blood tests came back apparently really bad, that I had developed pneumonia and sepsis. The lab kept calling and saying, well, you need to go to the doctor, you need to go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. I did not want to do that. That was the last thing I wanted. So I kept ignoring the phone calls, which was not bright, but I was not in a good place. I was really hurting, and I was really upset. It was so quiet and so peaceful, and I knew that going to the hospital was going to break that. It was going to be bright lights and dragging you through, and cold rooms, and people just, yanking you around and shoving you around, because you can't move very well yourself. I didn't want any of that. In my room, it was peaceful and quiet and dark, and I just didn't want that to end. Well, apparently they called my brother-in-law, who was my emergency contact, because they couldn't get through to me. So he came barging into my room, said, we're going to the hospital, and I didn't argue with him. When the ambulance came, the guy had to pick me up like a rag doll. Like I could not move. Like I just blah, in his arms, So he got me in the ambulance, got me to the hospital. I wasn't there very long, and I remember they started to, work on me, and I must have passed out because I woke up in the ICU. Apparently, my blood pressure had bottomed out, and I almost died again. That's number 3. They had to give me medicine to bring my blood pressure back up. So I spent a couple days at ICU, then got moved to a regular room. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital again. 16 weeks in the hospital total in these last 3 years, with a couple extra stays that I didn't really talk about in this video. But yeah, about 16 weeks total. Um, God spared me 3 times from dying. And I just want to, I've wanted to do this video for a while to share that with people, to let people know that God does mean everything we go through to be for our good. He does not mean for anything to harm us, anything to be bad. He works all things together for good for those who love him. And I'm living proof of that. And I want to be grateful and show him that I am grateful for that. And I know why he spared me. He spared me to do this, exactly what I'm doing right now. Sharing his love for us. And I hope that I can do this all the time. I'm going to try to start making more videos. I keep seeing all these videos on here, people saying God's telling them that people need to be making more content, sharing more of their stories, more of their lives, more of what he's doing for them. And I want to be obedient to that. I want God to use me as a vessel to help other people. That is the only thing I want from life. I really, really, really want to be obedient to God through this. And if you made it through this whole video, I'm very grateful. And I just want to say that I want to thank you for watching. And I want you to know God loves you. I love you. And I want you to know God's love. Jesus is coming back very, very soon. If you don't know him, please cry out to him and get to know him. Because there's not a lot of time left. It really isn't. We all have to make this decision on our own. And I hope you will decide to put your trust in him and be saved. And I thank you for watching this. If you've been helped by this video at all, like, share, subscribe it. I never thought I'd be one of those people saying that, but here I am. And I mean, this is how we get these videos, this content out to people, by liking, sharing, subscribing. Please, if you have gotten anything out of this video, please do that. And I just want to say, God bless. Please get to know him. Please. There's not much time. Thank you.